Welcome to one of the most fascinating journeys inside the human body, a journey that nobody can see, yet it happens every single day inside millions of muscles around the world. You've probably heard this sentence hundreds of times. Creatine is the best supplement for building muscle. But you've probably heard the complete opposite too. Creatine destroys your kidneys. Creatine causes water retention. Creatine is nothing more than a marketing gimmick. But where's the truth? Does creatine actually make a meaningful difference? Or are its results simply an illusion created by advertising, influencers, and social media? Today, we're not going to rely on celebrity opinions. We're not going to rely on your friend's experience. And we're not going to repeat random claims from the internet. Instead, we're going to travel to the one place that can give us the real answer, inside your body. We're going to follow a single creatine molecule from the moment you swallow it. We'll watch it travel through your stomach, move through your intestines, enter your bloodstream, and eventually reach its real destination, the muscle cell. We'll see how this tiny molecule becomes part of one of the fastest energy systems in your body, and how creatine can help you produce more force during short, intense efforts, potentially allowing you to squeeze out an extra repetition near the end of a hard set. And that single extra repetition might sound insignificant, but repeated over hundreds of workouts, those small advantages can contribute to greater training volume, improved strength, and ultimately more muscle growth. But here's the surprising part. Creatine doesn't directly build your muscles. Yes, you heard that correctly. Creatine doesn't manufacture muscle fibers. It doesn't magically add protein to your muscles, and it doesn't make your body grow muscle by itself. So why is creatine considered one of the most extensively studied sports supplements in history? And why is it used by bodybuilders, football players, sprinters, wrestlers, and athletes across countless sports? The answer begins with the smallest and most important energy currency inside yourselves, ATP. Imagine you're about to lift a heavy weight. The moment you begin pushing that weight upward, your muscles need energy almost instantly. Not 1 minute later, not 10 seconds later, right now. But where does that energy come from so quickly? Inside every muscle cell is a molecule called ATP. The name might sound complicated, but its role is surprisingly simple. ATP is essentially the immediate energy currency that powers muscle contraction and countless other processes throughout your body. Every step you take, every breath you take, every heartbeat, and every kilogram you lift in the gym depends on cellular energy. But there's a problem. Your muscles store only a small amount of readily available ATP, so during extremely intense exercise, those ATP molecules are consumed very quickly. If your body didn't have a rapid way to regenerate ATP, your muscles would quickly lose their ability to maintain high levels of force. And this is where our main character enters the story, creatine. But before we understand how creatine works, we need to answer an important question. What exactly is creatine? Many people assume that creatine is some artificial chemical invented by supplement companies. That's not true. Creatine is a naturally occurring compound that your body produces every day. Your body makes it from 3 amino acids, arginine, glycine, and methionine. Creatine is produced primarily in the liver and kidneys, with some contribution from the pancreas. It then enters the bloodstream and is transported to tissues throughout the body. And here's the important part. The vast majority of your body's creatine is stored in skeletal muscle. A smaller amount is found in other tissues, including the brain and heart. You can also get creatine from food, especially from animal-based foods, such as red meat and fish. But here's the catch. The amount of creatine you get from food can vary, and obtaining several grams of creatine entirely from food would require consuming a substantial amount of animal products. That's one reason many athletes choose creatine supplementation, not because the supplement contains some completely different substance, but because supplementation provides a simple and practical way to increase the amount of creatine available to the body. And now, the most exciting part of the journey begins. What happens the moment you swallow a dose of creatine? How does your body process it? How does it enter your bloodstream? And why does so much of it eventually end up inside your muscles? In the next part, we'll travel through the stomach, into the intestines, through the bloodstream, and finally into the muscle cell, where we'll discover how creatine becomes part of the phosphocreatine energy system and helps your muscles rapidly regenerate ATP during intense exercise. And that's where this tiny molecule begins to have a much bigger impact, not by magically creating muscle, but by helping your muscles produce energy when they need it most. But does the story end there? Is creatine really just about helping you squeeze out one extra repetition and giving your muscles a slightly fuller appearance? Actually, no. Because over the past several decades, scientists have discovered that creatine is far more interesting than it first appeared. Let's go back inside the muscle. After finishing a demanding set of squats or bench presses, your muscle fibers have been placed under enormous stress. Millions of rapid muscle contractions have consumed large amounts of energy, and the muscle tissue has been pushed close to its limits. Now the body begins the process of recovery and adaptation. Nutrients are delivered to the muscles, damaged structures are repaired, and the body begins preparing the muscle fibers to handle the same stress more effectively in the future. But what if you could perform an extra repetition? What if you could maintain your strength for another set? What if you could lift slightly more weight while maintaining good technique? You could potentially create a stronger training stimulus over time. And this is where creatine becomes interesting. Creatine doesn't magically build muscle by itself. Instead, it helps your muscles regenerate ATP more rapidly during short, intense efforts. ATP is the immediate energy currency your muscle cells use to produce force. When ATP is rapidly consumed during a hard set, phosphocreatine inside your muscles helps restore it. The more readily available phosphocreatine you have, the better your muscles can support repeated high-intensity efforts. And over weeks and months, those small improvements in training performance can contribute to greater strength and muscle growth. This is why numerous studies have found that people who combine creatine supplementation with resistance training can gain more strength and lean muscle mass than people who train without creatine, although individual results can vary. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Creatine isn't found only in your muscles. Your brain also relies heavily on ATP to function. Every thought, movement, signal, and decision requires energy. And researchers have been investigating whether creatine supplementation can support cognitive performance under certain conditions. Some studies suggest potential benefits, particularly when the body or brain is under high physical or mental stress, or when dietary creatine intake is relatively low. However, the evidence for cognitive benefits is still developing. The strongest and most consistent evidence remains related to exercise performance, strength, and muscle development. Now, let's address some of the biggest myths surrounding creatine. Myth number 1: creatine destroys your kidneys. You've probably heard this claim before, but what does the evidence actually show? In healthy individuals, controlled studies have not demonstrated that recommended creatine supplementation causes kidney damage. However, if you already have kidney disease or another medical condition, you should speak with a healthcare professional before using creatine or any other supplement. Myth number 2: creatine causes hair loss. This claim became popular after a small study generated concerns about changes in a hormone associated with hair loss. But here's the important part. There is currently no strong evidence proving that creatine directly causes hair loss or baldness. The research in this area remains limited and inconclusive. Myth number 3: you have to do a loading phase. A traditional loading protocol involves taking around 20 grams of creatine per day for several days, usually divided into multiple smaller doses, before switching to a lower maintenance dose. But is loading actually necessary? No. Loading simply allows your muscles to become saturated with creatine more quickly. If you take around 3 to 5 grams every day, your muscle creatine stores will gradually reach a similar level over several weeks. The main difference is speed, not the final result. So now we reach the question almost everyone asks: what is the best way to take creatine? For healthy adults, one of the most widely studied approaches is 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day. Creatine monohydrate is the most extensively researched form of creatine, and it is also relatively inexpensive and widely available. And what about timing? Should you take it before your workout, after your workout, in the morning, at night? The exact timing appears to be far less important than consistency. The goal is to maintain elevated creatine stores in your muscles over time, so choose a time that you can remember and take it consistently. And now, after following creatine from the moment it enters your body to the energy systems inside your muscle cells, one thing becomes clear. Creatine isn't magic, but it isn't just a marketing gimmick either. It is one of the most extensively studied sports supplements in the world, with strong evidence supporting its ability to improve high-intensity exercise performance and support gains in strength and muscle mass when combined with resistance training. But remember, if your training is poor, your nutrition is inadequate, or your recovery is neglected, creatine won't perform miracles. Muscle is built through intelligent training, adequate nutrition, and proper recovery. Creatine simply helps you get more from that process. So don't ask, does creatine magically build muscle? Ask the better question. Can creatine help me train harder and perform better so I can create a stronger stimulus for muscle growth? And for many healthy people who use it correctly, the evidence says yes. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Muscle Code. We don't chase fitness myths. We break down the science, step by step, so you can understand what's really happening inside your body. And in the next video, we'll travel inside the human body once again and follow the journey of protein, from the moment you eat it to the moment your body uses its amino acids to build and repair muscle tissue.